Good morning. Welcome into Let's Bet It, presented by Superbook Sports. Happy Monday. I'm Lauren Jabara. That's Mark Zinno. How was your weekend, Zinno? How are we doing on a Monday morning?
Profitable once again. We stay
Love
in the
it.
plus column, so that's always a good thing. Little bit sour at the Sunday night football game at how it ended. But as a Giants fan, I was happy. As a bettor, I was a little nonplussed about the way the ending came. But that's neither here
You,
nor there.
you and your big words that we use on a Monday morning, I can't even keep up with you at this point. We have a lot to get into today, though. We got winners and losers because in life there are winners and there are losers. In football, there are winners and there are losers. And in betting, there are winners and there are losers. And we're going to get into that today. We have a Monday Night Football preview, 5 burning NFL questions, and then college football early birds if you like the Myrtle Beach Bowl today. I like some bowl games tomorrow, so we'll get into those on that day. I'm not loving the Myrtle Beach Bowl today, to be honest with you, but I will watch it. Because why not? It's football in the afternoon on a Monday. So let's get right into it and let's bet it. Winners, losers, and overreaction from week 15. Who is your biggest winner from week 15?
I mean, Lauren, how can I not pick your Detroit Lions once again as the
Mm-hmm.
big winner? I mean, a lot of the last 3 or 4 weeks that they've played were against mediocre to bad defenses, and their offense was good enough to take advantage. This is the first
Yeah.
legit defense that they played pretty much in the last 6 weeks, other than the loss to the Bills, right? So they've won 6 out of their last 7. Their offense wasn't spectacular yesterday, but against the Jets defense, it's really hard to be spectacular. And they were. They were good enough to get a win on the road. That's tough for them, and they keep themselves very much alive in this NFC playoff picture. And a quick nod again, as we've done this show on Mondays. I keep telling you the big winners always the Bengals. Once again, the Cincinnati Bengals go out and win a game not many people thought they could, and they do it very convincingly. It's crazy to say that they may be the best team in the AFC. I'm not sure anybody's giving enough credit as being that right now with Buffalo and Kansas City where they are. But uh,
Mm-hmm.
again, I keep telling everybody, I'm not betting on Cincinnati at this point because they are now 6-0 against the number in the last 6 games because I don't like to jump in that train in the middle, but I'm certainly not
Yeah.
standing in front of them. Nope, sorry, not doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The Bengals have looked really, really good. Joe Burrow, and I said this to Jared too, he's not your average Joe. I mean, the dude is making plays. He's leading his team to be very successful, and they could probably make a big run at the Super Bowl if they really wanted to. My biggest winner, which I know is your overreaction, so I want to hear why, is the Minnesota Vikings and obviously the Detroit Lions, but also my biggest winner last week was the Detroit Lions. My biggest winner the week before that was the Detroit Lions. I feel like I need to switch it up a little bit, so I'm choosing the Vikings this week, making the greatest comeback in NFL history. They trailed 33 to nothing at half. Patrick Peterson walks in the locker room and says, "Guys, we need 5 touchdowns. Let's take it one at a time." Kirk Cousins was like, "Is this guy for real?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, this guy is for real." And only like 3 out of 1,000 times a team will score 5 touchdowns and a half. But the Vikings did it. They outscored the Colts by 36 in the second half, won in overtime. Largest comeback in NFL history. Their chance of winning at halftime was 1%, which is pretty crazy. I'm not saying like this is a phenomenal Vikings team, but for 1 week, just looking at what they were able to do in that one game, they are my biggest winners. Again, they were playing the Fighting Saturdays, who basically laid down and died on a Saturday in that second half. So me saying the Vikings are a winner does not mean saying the Vikings are a good team, but they were able to make the biggest comeback in NFL history, which makes them a winner for at least week 15. Why are they your overreaction team?
Well, I wanted to make them my biggest loser, to be honest with you, because they have been officially exposed. This is not a team that can make a deep playoff run. Like, stop
Mm-hmm.
celebrating the fact that you came back from 33 to nothing. And oh, by the way, Lauren, I live bet the Minnesota Vikings. And I put this on my social media because I was in a state legally where I could do it over the weekend. But
Love
I
that.
live bet the Minnesota Vikings when they were down 23 to nothing. I'm sitting there with a mutual friend of ours and a former colleague here, Alex Glaze. We were watching the game together.
Yeah.
And we said it's 23 nothing. I go, are the Vikings getting the ball in the second half? We looked it up. Yes, they are. There's 5 minutes left. I'm like, they score here, right? And then score in the first drive of the second half. We got 23-14. We got a shot at this thing. On the very next play, as soon as we made the bet, Kirk Cousins threw a pick six, and it was 30 to nothing. Now, here's the real rub of this. You're going to love this. Glaze cashed out for $2.90 I hung on to my ticket, and it ended
Let's
up
go.
cashing at plus 870. One of the better cashes I've ever had in my life. But that said, again, the Vikings, they're a fraud. They are
I know
not
they're
going to be
from.
a deep playoff team. They can't. They just don't have what it takes, and I don't know if it's coaching or if it's just Kirk or it's a combination of bad defense or whatever. I'm not going to get excited about them coming back from 33 to nothing when in reality all this means is that they're going to be the first or maybe second, like 14 win team to get bounced in their first playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're frauds too. I put them up there with the Green Bay Packers, and you're gonna die at my best bet of the day. With how much
Oh,
shit I've been talking about the Green Bay Packers all season long. I'm calling the Vikings my winner of Week 15, and I may or may not be betting the Packers tonight for the first time all season. So who is she on this Monday morning? It's Christmas week, We're feeling a little excited, celebrating the holiday. Why not? Okay, my biggest loser, and I'm not going to talk about too much about why. It's just the Patriots. The way they lost that game, I can't. They're my biggest loser. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. Why would you not just go down? You don't need to throw that football. You'd go into overtime. Why? Right?
Listen, give credit to Jacoby Myers for owning up to it, accepting full responsibility. He told everybody the truth. He was 100% aware of the situation. He knew what the score was. He knew what the thing was. He just said, I was playing hero ball and tried to make a play. I mean, that is as honest and as raw as you can get for a
Mm-hmm.
player to admit that cost his team a game that they absolutely needed to have to stay in the playoff race. They are now on the outside looking in after that loss to the Las Vegas Raiders. So credit to Jacoby Myers. Doesn't make any sense, but you give him a little bit of credit for at least owning it.
Yeah, I mean, I love a guy that takes responsibility for his actions. Why not? So, in a position like that, they're still losers. They still lost the game, and they did it in a crazy fashion to the Las Vegas Raiders. So, they're my biggest losers this week. Your biggest loser, hit me with it.
I mean, the NFL officials were awful on Sunday night. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
some of the worst officiating I've ever seen. Not to mention, just focus on the last drive. I mean, Washington literally had 3 touchdowns taken off the board from them last night because of officiating, and it was mind numbing to watch. Terry McLaurin goes over there and goes to the outside and then checks with the ref. He does that thing, where you see the wide receiver look to the right, put his arm up, and checks with the ref. The ref told him to move forward. He took a step forward. He checked with the ref and didn't say anything. And then the ref throws the flag as soon as they snap the ball on what would have been a touchdown that needed a 2-point conversion to tie it. And then on the last play of the game, I, I mean, Curtis Samuel got mauled. He got raped. He
Mm-hmm.
got abused. He got molested. It was obvious to everybody, and these morons miss it. I guarantee you, if that's in the third quarter of that game, the 17 flags come from 25 different directions on that play, and they stuffed them all in their pocket on the last play of the game. Shame on you, NFL officials. That was awful, and I'll say it again. Every single penalty or non-penalty needs to be reviewable at this point in time.
Yeah, it is actually crazy. Some of these calls that these officials have been calling, sometimes they overreact, and then sometimes they extremely underreact and don't call plays that are visible to basically everybody else and their mother. But, that's neither here nor there. Last but not least, my overreaction is definitely the Kansas City Chiefs because everyone's freaking out saying, they went to overtime against the Texans. They didn't necessarily look like a championship team. They are. They are a championship team. The pieces that they have, they're going to go far. And they have Patrick Mahomes. The offense moved the ball. I know they also had some big turnovers, which maybe just clean some of those up. Mahomes had 20 straight completions to close out that game. 6 receivers caught every single one of their targets. He had an 88% completion rate on the day. When you have a quarterback that's going to be playing like that, you're a championship caliber team. Travis Kelce's an absolute stud. The game shouldn't have even come down to a field goal at the end of regulation, but it did. Harrison Butker maybe could also be one of my biggest losers of the week. If they would have lost that game, Harrison Butker might have been my biggest loser of the week. He missed the field goal at the end of regulation. After missing an extra point, they went to overtime. Here's the thing. Championship teams find ways to win games. That's what they did. They won a game against a bad Texans team. They made some mistakes. They got some calls. Wait, what are you squinting?
I have a question, Professor.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
championship teams find ways to win games, then we would qualify the Vikings as a championship team. We just have disqualified them. Now,
Which
here's my only
which
problem with what you're saying. they have Patrick Mahomes, and that is a whole different level of quarterback, right? And yes, so he
Mhm.
alone can carry them to a championship. But I have been telling, like, there, from a betting standpoint, Lauren, let's just look at it this way. There is still this public perception in the marketplace about Kansas City that they are leaps and bounds better than everybody and they will blow teams out. Wrong. No, they don't. And as long as odds makers, and well, I shouldn't even say odds makers. Odds makers are doing it because the public is still doing it. As long as the public
Mhm.
continues to bet on Kansas City and lay heavy numbers, odds makers are going to keep hanging them out there for suckers to go and bet. Folks, I'm telling you right now, if it's more than a touchdown on Kansas City, take the points. If it's under a touchdown, lay the points with Kansas City. It's a very simple formula. And all the games they've won this year, Lauren, they've only won games. Count them 2 by more than 11 points. They do not blow teams out like people think that they do. They are not that kind of team that separates from everybody as well as they do. They separate, but not blowout separate. They separate enough to get you to a touchdown,
Yeah.
but not much more than that.
Yeah. I still think they could be a championship caliber team with the players that they
No,
have.
you're
And I
not
think
wrong.
people are overrated.
No, you're not wrong in
What?
that. You're not
Yeah,
wrong in that
I am.
statement.
Yeah. So that's why they're my overreaction because people are saying they're not championship caliber team. I'm like, yes, they are. They still are. They're still the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's still Patrick Mahomes. And I mean,
Yes.
I truly don't think that they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't think that they'll get close. I think that maybe they're like a one postseason win team this year. But
I
at the
have
same
Kansas City
time,
Chiefs
like
fatigue. I'm so over
you have
them.
a
I
fatigue.
kind of,
I
yeah,
know.
I kind of.
It's time for someone else to step in and take
Let's
charge
go
at this
Buffalo.
point. Yeah, those are our biggest winners, losers, and overreactions of week 15. We got one more game this week before heading into the final 3 weeks of the regular season. It's the Rams taking on the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau. The Rams coming off of a massive win against the Raiders. Baker Mayfield under center threw a game-winning touchdown in the final seconds of the game, which I don't think anybody expected or wrote the script for. The Packers defeated the Bears in week 13, and they had a bye week in week 14, which I think is the best week for them to have a bye, to be honest with you. Guys are getting healthy. Romeo Dobbs is going to be back. He's a good compliment to Christian Watson, Alan Lazard. Aaron Donald for the Rams missing another game. This is a good spot for the Packers, in my opinion. I want to see how you think this game is going to play out.
Well, I'll just approach it from this way, okay? And you fell into the same classic trap that everybody has fallen into for the past week about this whole thing. Baker Mayfield threw a game-winning touchdown pass. Yeah, that's not a factually incorrect statement. The other fact of the matter is both these things can be true at the same time. Yes, Baker Mayfield did throw the game-winning touchdown pass. Baker Mayfield also sucked for 57 minutes of that football game. He was downright awful. I mean, look, objectively, we know at this point Baker Mayfield is not a good quarterback. He is not a
Yeah.
starting level
Yeah.
quarterback in the NFL anymore. That reason alone gives me enough to fade the LA Rams in this spot. It's the Packers at home on Monday night. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's cold weather. Baker Mayfield's going to stink for 59 minutes in this game. And hopefully the last minute isn't one that gets a backdoor cover for the guy. But that said,
Yeah.
I have no reservations tonight about Green Bay.
Here's the thing, and I'll get into it more. I have no reservations tonight either. The Packers 8-0 against the spread in their last 8 games against the Rams, 6-1 in their last 7 against the NFC West. I know it's a different Packers team than what we're used to seeing in the past, right? It's a different Packers team this season, but it makes you think they're going to be able to take advantage at home in cold temperatures against a struggling Rams team with Baker under center. The bye came at a perfect time. Coming from LA, the Rams, they're not used to that cold weather. 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games at Lambeau. Each of those games they lost by 8 points or more, which makes the 7-point spread not seem like too much. But we'll get to that in our best bets of the day because that may or may not be my best bet of the day. Let's get into 20 questions or 5 burning questions that we have about the NFL with 3 weeks plus 1 game left in the regular season. Should we be worried at this point about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Dallas Cowboys? The Chiefs get a win, the Cowboys do not. But should we be worried about either of those teams right now?
Worried about them how? As far as winning the Super Bowl and their chances to do so? Yes. Worried
Getting
about them
into the
about
postseason, yes.
no. They're not worried about them getting into the postseason. I mean,
Well, obviously the Chiefs already in, but
the Chiefs and the Cowboys clinched a playoff spot last night, so they're in.
Mhm.
It's a question of, do you think they'll get bounced in their first playoff game? I think the answer is no for both of them. The Cowboys have had some hiccups this year that leave you scratching your head a little bit. But don't fall into narratives about the Dallas Cowboys and the public perception of it's easy to hate on Dak and the Dallas Cowboys. Narratives don't play into gambling, folks, and they don't play into
Yeah.
what odds makers look at for story for they don't bake narratives into storylines. They just don't. It's a numbers based thing. So you could try to talk all you want about what the Cowboys are and what they aren't. They'll continue to be a favorite the rest of the way out, even not this week against the Eagles, but you get the point. So all that said, yeah, I'm not too worried about them. Winning the Super Bowl, that's a different conversation, though.
What about the AFC East? We're looking at the Jets right now. They're sitting at the bottom of the AFC East, tied with the Patriots at this point. Are they out of the playoff picture? Are their playoff hopes done? Because what we know about them at this point is they got swept by the Patriots, right? They lose that tiebreaker to the Pats. They're one game behind the Chargers and the Dolphins for the final playoff spot. Are their playoff hopes done, or are we still holding on for dear life?
I mean, look, optimistically, I would love to get the Jets into the playoffs. For all my Jet fan friends who, for years, have endured agony and misery and everything else, they just don't have the offense right now. That defense is probably one of the two or three best defensive units in the entire league,
Mm-hmm.
and they are fantastic. They need some more consistent quarterback play. And honestly, I would have loved to have seen how this season played out had Brees Hall not got hurt. If he is still there, I think this thing looks a little bit different for the New York Jets, and they might be in second place right now, chasing the Buffalo Bills. So yeah, I think they're done. Mathematically, it's tough. You have the Chargers now ahead of them, and you still have the Ravens there, and the Dolphins, and the Patriots. The Jets just have too
Mm-hmm.
many teams at this point in time.
Yeah, I honestly would have loved to see Brees Hall finish. I think we all would have loved to see that. You want to see the best take on the best, right? He was having such a great start to the season. It kind of just sucks what happened to them. But after their loss to the Lions this week, which, sorry, Jared, about this, if you're watching the show, go Lions, baby. I tried to convince him into a swag
Did he
bet,
bet
but
against the
couldn't
Lions?
get him to
Did he?
bite on that one.
Did he bet against the
What?
Lions? Did he bet against
Yeah,
the
so he's a
Lions?
Jets fan. Yeah, he took the Jets. I took the Lions, but we didn't do a swag bet this time. Here's the thing: is I liked the Lions when they were laying a point, and then when the line flipped and they were getting a point and a half, I'm like, sign me up, baby. Let's go. Um, but Jared Goff, not the best quarterback. The Lions, though, they're rolling. Welcome to the Dan Campbell era, people. Let's talk about some good quarterbacks, though. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, who looked phenomenal against the Dallas Cowboys. Are they the best quarterback prospects, would you say, out of the last two drafts, or are there a couple other guys up there?
I'm still starting to come around on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
I want to be higher on him, but there even yesterday, like there are some things, some throws that he made yesterday. I'm just completely head scratching. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? I still want to see Trevor Lawrence use his legs more. Like the guy that was in
Mm-hmm.
college put the team on his back and carried them because he could scramble and make plays with his legs has yet to really show up in the NFL. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. It doesn't have to be design runs. It doesn't have to be as heavy as Justin Fields, but I'd like to see a little bit more of that to at least make his life in the passing game. I'd put Justin Fields ahead of Trevor Lawrence right now. If you're asking me to
Yeah.
choose like redraft in the order, I'd take Justin Fields over Trevor Lawrence right now. And so I have been super impressed with Justin Fields. And remember, when this young kid started playing a year ago, he didn't look like he was going to last in the NFL at all. He looked nothing like an NFL quarterback. Now, coaches
Mm-hmm.
changed. Things have changed a little bit all around. Yeah. Okay. So Justin Fields got into a place where he's a little bit more comfortable. But that is, as the kids say, that's a baller right there. And that's a dude that you want on your team.
Total. Would you say that they're the best two quarterback prospects out of the last two drafts, or would you rank other guys up there as well?
You can't judge Trey Lance at this point in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are we talking about guys from other quarterback classes as well? I mean, obviously, he's neither
Yeah.
one of those guys is Joe Burrow, right? They're not at that level. You go back to the 2018. I mean, these guys were drafted 2 years ago, right? So I'm trying to not go
Yeah.
too far back to 2018 and look at the Josh Allen year and the Lamar Jackson year, but um, yeah, they're
It's
there.
too far back, Zeno. I said two drafts, not 17. Jeez.
Listen, hey, I'm old. What do you want me to do here? Okay. wasn't like 1983
You
when
want to
Dan
know who else?
Marino.
Do you want to know who else is old? It's Tom Brady, and it's showing in his play because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have now lost 2 straight games. The NFC South is still up for grabs. Like the Panthers had an
Pathetic.
opportunity. The Panthers had an opportunity this week, and I actually bet on them, and that might have been one of my worst bets of the week, to tie the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the top spot in the NFC South. They lost. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have lost 2. The Saints won. The Falcons lost a third in the row. There's 3 teams at 5-9 in this division. 1 team at 6-8. Who is going to win the NFC South? This division is up for grabs still.
It's pathetic. Pathetic. It's really bad.
Pathetic.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. The Panthers have a shot at this thing better than anybody else. Why? Because the Buccaneers swept the Saints, so they have the tiebreaker over them. The Panthers have already taken a loss to. I'm sorry. The Panthers have already beaten the Buccaneers. So, therefore, if the Panthers sweep the season series, they will have the head-to-head tiebreak and a tie record. So, if it's not going to be Tampa, it's going to be Carolina. Yesterday, all week long, I was high on Carolina. I was going to run it back with them because I had them the week before in Seattle. And then as I got to yesterday, I got very skittish about them being a favorite. Like, it's one thing when they're an underdog, it's different. And I had a very uneasy feeling about them against that Steelers defense. I ultimately walked away from the Panthers yesterday, even though the 2.5 was very, very appetizing to take. I think it might have got pushed to 3 at some point on Sunday or on Saturday for that matter. But nonetheless, this is a Panthers defense right now that is playing as good as any unit in the league. They get after the quarterback like nobody's business these days. Sam Darnold seems to have at least stabilized some of the things on offense and made them somewhat a little bit more viable. But it's this defense that really gives me optimism for them. And if Steve Wilkes can take over as the interim coach and get this team to win the division, I don't care if it's at 8-9 or 7-10, whatever it may be, I would tell you succinctly that that dude might have earned himself a head coaching job somewhere or at least another interview down the road. But I would lean on the Panthers right now. I can't trust the Buccaneers. Much like I talked about before earlier with Kansas City, as long as the public continues to bet on Tom Brady, odds makers will continue to hang these numbers out there that will entice you to bet on Tom Brady. We have been so conditioned and trained to believe that Tom Brady and whatever team he's on are going to be good, they're going to be competitive, and they're going to win football games that we can't get out of that mindset. So we're all, including myself, we're all very skittish to bet against Tom Brady. I didn't like the number yesterday at 3.5. I wanted no part of laying it on the road with the Bengals, but I certainly wasn't going to stand in front of them, especially with a Tampa Bay offense that is inept at this point in time. Brady throws a ton of picks yesterday, very uncharacteristic for him. Most of this season hasn't been his fault. Erasing a 17-0 lead yesterday was partly his fault because he couldn't take care of the football.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It's just crazy. I feel like the winner of the NFC South is going to be under 500, which is unheard of, but we'll see.
Well,
we'll see what happens.
Tampa needs to run the table to finish at 9-8. So other than that, the other teams aren't finishing above 500.
The power division in the NFL. You love to see it. 3 weeks left for those teams. We'll see how it plays out. Last but not least, before we get into bowl games, who would you say at this point of the season are the 2 best teams in the league? I look at the Bills. I look at the 49ers, maybe the Bengals. Who would you say at this point are the 2 best teams in the NFL?
Look, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. It has nothing to do with their record. They have numbers to back that up. The 49ers have the best defense, not only in the NFC, but in the NFL, and that's enough to keep them in this conversation. I default to the Bills in the AFC, but as I said earlier, Lauren, it's really hard to ignore the Bengals right now and how they're winning games and how they're doing it and where they're doing it, against who they're doing it. It's impressive. Just continue back to the run. Road win at Pittsburgh, road win at Tennessee, home win over the Chiefs, another road divisional win for the Bengals last week, and a win against Tom Brady on the road this week. It's like, man, who are these guys? Like, they don't seem like they know how to lose right now.
Yeah, it really is crazy. And the way that they're winning is different ways of winning every single game. It's the team that's playing together. They're getting healthy at the right time. I'm loving the Bengals right now. Jared said last week that he would bet right now on the Bengals to be in the Super Bowl. And I said, to be honest, I wouldn't bet against it. They might win the Super Bowl this year, to be honest with you. We'll see. I would love to see that matchup between the 49ers and the Bengals. I think that would be a fun finale to a great 22-23 NFL season, but we'll see. All right, it is bowl season. This is day 5 of 19 straight days of football, whether it be NFL, college football. You love to see it. We got a month long of nothing but foosball. Today we have the Myrtle Beach Bowl. You liking anything there? Or are there any bowl games you're looking at this week, or kind of taking it day by day when it comes to that?
I've never been to Myrtle Beach, so I'm not going to be a big fan of the Myrtle Beach Bowl, but I hear it's nice there, especially this time of year. That said, I am looking later on in the week. Baylor at Air Force is interesting to me. I want to back Baylor there. I think that they're the right side. Even though that number's come down a little bit, it's been bet down. So Air Force getting a little bit of love here as we go forward. Wake Forest, Missouri should be very interesting. When you get SEC versus ACC, Missouri is a team that's super motivated to be in this game. I don't think Wake Forest is as motivated to be in this bowl game than Missouri is. To this point, Missouri and their defense have been very, very good. It'll be interesting to see that defense go up against the Wake Forest offense. Got to double check the opt-outs if Sam Howell's playing and everything else. I hadn't gotten that far into the handicap yet. But, again, I think Missouri feels like the right side here. And the number in this game, to me, is short enough that sort of makes me feel like it. Like that's the case. That Sam Hartman, do we know if he's playing yet? I hadn't heard one way or another. My guess is no, given the
Oh, well, maybe. I'll look it up right now.
Favored by a point. I haven't gotten that far in it. I knew the number was short here, but I kind of like Missouri in this spot, given their defense and what they can do. Wake's lost 4 of their last 5 going into this thing. They're not playing a good brand of football right now. They're a team with a lot of injuries. Missouri should be able to take advantage.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm excited for the Myrtle Beach Bowl game tonight. I covered a UConn game earlier in the season when they were taking on NC State, and at that point they had 1 win in the season. They had just gotten crushed by Michigan. They got crushed again by NC State. Just seeing them be able to rally back, win 5 games, and become bowl eligible for the first time in like 10 years under Jim Mora, I'm definitely rooting for them in this game. I don't think I'm necessarily betting on that game, but it's going to be fun to watch. Why not? Monday afternoon bowl game. You love to see it. All right, let's get to some of our best bets of the day. And I will be breaking down some bowl games tomorrow because I am betting on tomorrow's games. Let's Bet It, presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. Make sure to go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, my friends, we are all rooting for safeties. That is because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total. And if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you, my friends, get a $50 bonus. Make sure to visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. From superbook.com, to Pickswise.com. 3-star play. Do we got anything today on the site?
Lauren, you know that Pickswise is a wealth of information and just a veritable cornucopia of picks.
Love this.
That you can find. No, I mean, you go to Pickswise.com. You will see some best bets in the NHL and in college football today. 3-star plays of the day. Make sure you go to Pickswise.com.
You absolutely love to see it. Also, I know we usually have Bobby Stanley on the show. He was feeling under the weather today. So, Bobby Stanley, Prop Holiday, we hope you're feeling better today or feeling better this week. Rest up, my friend. Rest up because you got a big game tonight taking on the Packers. He's a Rams guy. We'll see how that game plays out. But I think both of us right now are leading the Packers. I'll let you go first. And then, because you're taking care of the first half, I'm taking care of the full game. So, tell me, who's your best bet of the day?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that there were no Baker Mayfield heroics in the second game like we saw last week. I'm going to lay the 4 points of the Packers here in the first half. Baker Mayfield was terrible last week in the first half. He was terrible for 57 minutes of that football game. I expect more of the same here on Monday night. He just hasn't had enough time with this team or with this offense yet to be able to really kind of sink his teeth in and become something consistent. You add in the simple fact that the Packers, when Aaron Rodgers has started a game at home on Monday night and finished it, he is 9-0, undefeated. He only has 2 games in that span with a quarterback rating under 90. He throws the ball well on Monday night at home. The weather and the elements should absolutely back him up here. The Packers still sort of alive and a lot to play for. I will take the Packers, lay the 4 points at home against a Rams defense that's banged up with no Aaron Donald and really nobody to go get after the quarterback here. Packers -4 in the first half for my best bet.
I love it. And I'm taking the full game spread. Packers laying the full 7 points, laying the full tutty in this spot. They defeated the Bears back in week 13. They had a bye week in week 14. They're going to feel extremely rested. The Rams are basically out of playoff contention at this point, but Baker Mayfield, I know he has something to prove. He wants to be on a roster next year. But for the Packers, their defense has been solid. They have the 8th best DVOA in the past DVOA in the NFL right now. They're only allowing 192.9 yards through the air per game. And I look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, who really hasn't had that much time over this whole season, right? I mean, yeah, he had heroics last week, but I don't think that's going to happen again. The Packers are only allowing 9.6 first half points per game, which is also 8th in the NFL. Then you look at Lambeau. The weather in general. It's a tough place to play in the winter. And you're looking at a team that's coming from LA. That also makes it tough. They're 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games at Lambeau. They lost each of those games by 8 points or more. And the Packers are 8-0 against the spread in their last 8 games against the Rams. They're 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 against the NFC West. I know it's a different Packers team this season, but it makes you think they're going to be able to take advantage at home in cold temperatures against a struggling Rams team with Baker under center. And for the Packers, their bye week came at the perfect time because Romeo Doubs, he's going to be back in the lineup. It's a great compliment to Christian Watson, Allen Lazard, Aaron Donald. Missing another game this week. That's big for the Rams defense. They need Aaron Donald in their lineup to be able to win games. He's not. I like the Packers laying the 7 points here. This is the only time this season that you're probably going to hear me bet on the Packers and lay points with the Packers. So, I actually feel good about a bet if I'm betting on the Packers in this spot. I'm taking them laying the tutty on Monday Night Football to put a bow on Week 15. Zeno, that's it for us today. Find us on the Pickswise YouTube channel. Go to Pickswise.com. Follow us on Twitter. Mark Zeno, Lauren Jabara. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Let's get it. Let's bet it.